Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. I'm here today on Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with author, healer, and lover of life, Anne Round. Welcome, Anne.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation about sharing the energy of love.
So, Anne, you have been on your spiritual path consciously for quite some time.
Yes.
How did you start? How did spirit or your soul call you on that path?
At the time, I was a physiotherapist, and I had 3 young children, a business, a husband who went to sea a lot, and I needed some calm in my life. And that's when I started meditating. I took a course on meditation. I'd had a few spiritual experiences before that. So I was pretty open, and that's where it all began. And that's when I then would transfer the skills into my work environment and into all of my life.
And how did the simple act of adding meditation in your life help, I want to say trigger, but that's not really accurate. How did it help augment that spirit of love for you in your life?
As soon as I sat down on my pillow every evening, after all my kids were in bed, I would immediately sense the love coming down like sugar falling from the sky, like entering into every cell of my being. And that just created calm, peace, and ultimately brought me a lot of joy, with a lot of healing along the journey also.
And how did you know it was your path?
Because it felt great, and it was full of love, and everything in my life smoothed out.
You know, the world's kind of wonky these days, and a lot of people are having a hard time connecting with that energy of unconditional love. What would you say to all those people that are really kind of struggling to find their sense even of balance or peace in life?
The real piece for me was to learn to love myself and to get to the point where I knew that my entire life and path was worth loving. And so when we fight our own impulse within us, then we're no longer loving ourselves. We have to be open to allow the love that we are, which is the universal love, to come through us, to penetrate us, and to penetrate our life, so that we're not questioning it. Each time we question it and become too mental and mind engaged about what am I doing and or how am I moving in the world, we completely forget. We don't allow the naturalness of our love, that is the universal energy, to penetrate and come into our life. One of the tricks that I did was I needed to reform what was love, because love is so often perceived as what the movies tell us, or books when we were little, or all these different socially conditioned aspects of love. And that isn't what love is. So I transformed the word love by using an acrostic I use all the time. And I say, love is light of vitality everywhere. And that just expanded everything for me, so that love became a universal concept that is in everything. It's in the trees, it's in the grass, it's in the air we breathe, it's in the smiles we smile, it's in the books we write, the art we do, it's in the touch we touch, it's in the cooking we cook. So love just became absolutely everything in my life. And then the truth of how we transmit love through everything we do became very, very prominent. And I saw the effects. I saw the effects when I was treating clients. I saw the effects with my kids.
You know, I actually think that could potentially be the root of really all of our issues, our lack of self-love and self-acceptance. I have taught a 8-week program called Master Your Money Mind, and doing all the clearings on abundance and money, and then reprogramming the unconscious. The biggest shift that people have is that they have a greater level of self-love and self-acceptance. So it isn't really about money at all, but it's just reflected in our relationship with money. And I'm sure it's that way for just about every issue under the sun.
Absolutely. Loving ourselves is the key. If we can't love ourselves, then we're essentially rejecting a part of who we are, because we are love.
Because the nature of the universe is love, it's the very fabric that the universe is woven into. How could we not be love, really?
Because we are love, we are the divine, we are an emanation of source energy. And that emanation is love. Like for me, source is love. And therefore I am an emanation of love flowing into the world. My job as a human is to allow that flow into my being so it can flow in and it can flow out into the world. And it can flow out into the world in any manner. It can be simply walking by someone, and that love, you can feel it sometimes just slip over and calm someone's nervous system. You can see it enter into their field and they just relax and they suddenly take a deep breath. And those ways that we transmit love, we don't even know, because love has a job in this world that we are the transmissions. We are the vessels that love is transmitting through. And it is not our responsibility to know what love is doing. Love is doing what love needs to do in our world. And we need to trust that. And it does come down to trust and trusting love, surrendering to love. And the more we can do that, the more we love ourselves, the more we love our situation, the more the future is being created by love instead of fear.
Love has a consciousness.
Absolutely. Love and consciousness, energy are all the same word. They're all the same thing. They come from source, and we are consciousness in our human form, and we're becoming more conscious of the love that we are.
What would you say to all the people who, look around at the world and see all of the disruption and all of the not love that's happening, or can't really see the love that's there underneath?
For me, that love is absolutely there underneath. It's the undercurrent of our lives. It's the fabric, the matter that holds everything together. When people have near-death experiences, they speak to us. They tell us of the level of love that they feel. Then they return. This is why some of these people have done this, is they come back to give us more information that love is the fabric of what it is. And to those that are sitting in fear and looking out, they need to turn, for me, my way is to turn that light back inside myself. They need to come in, find your own love. There is love and beauty all around us in the worst situations. We saw that when we talk about people who've been through Auschwitz and places of terrible, terrible situations. There are still people who find the love. And it's those people that are transmitting the strength, the courage to keep going, to create change. Everything is always changing. But if we can bring that change from a place of love, then we can create the new world that is here. And there are hundreds of thousands of people that are doing that. And this is of such value to our world. And to those ones that are really sitting in fear, it's okay to be in fear. Just love that fear. Embrace that fear. Allow it to be there, but give it some love.
So how would you give your fear some love?
For me, I sit, I get quiet, and I look at it. Recently, I had an example come up in my life, and it was fear for my children around some of their activities and things. And I had to stop. You have to stop, you have to breathe, and you have to go inside and say, hey, why? Why do I have that fear? Where is it? Is it constriction somewhere in me? Because the origin of that fear is within ourselves. So I find that fear, I hold it, I embrace it. I might give it a color, I might give it a feeling, whatever I need to do to bring it to my consciousness. And then I apply my consciousness of love to it. And then I hold it and I be with it and I allow it to just have some space, to let it to just disperse enough, become a little more open, a little more loose, let the weave of it loosen, and then the love can get in. And it's amazing because then my fears do transform, and that thought of fear is no longer in my field. It's not in my space. I've let it transform into love.
So I actually have a little exercise that I do sometimes when I'm in that place of either judgment and judgment is just another expression of fear, right? Of fear or anger, which is another form of fear. And it's very similar. It's very similar that instead of keeping my focus on what's bothering me and the emotions that it triggers, I bring my awareness into my heart center and I invite in that part of me that has created this circumstance. And I give that part of me love. And then it kind of dissolves the emotional trigger. It's almost like magic. It's really, really a very interesting exercise. I've not read any of Matt Kahn's books, but I suspect this is kind of what he's talking about when he says loving what is.
It is loving what is. And I think in your exercise, what I am seeing is that you're going back to the source of the fear also. You're moving back to where our conditioning has created that fear. And of course, going back to the absolute source of it is essential, and then allows it to not arise again, which can sometimes be quite amazing, but you do go back and realize, wow, that fear is not present anymore. And it is so delightful. So
and sometimes those thoughts, those negative thoughts, we feel justified in our response. And sometimes we identify with the pain, the suffering, the anger, the whatever. Sometimes that conscious mind doesn't want to give those feelings and thoughts up quite so readily. And I found this to be a very effective way that when you get into your heart space, you just can't bring those emotions with you. And it's like they stay on the outside of your aura. But the one thing I would say to anyone who is stuck in those kind of emotional cycles or thought patterns is that you're actually feeding those emotions and feeding the darkness.
We always have the choice to love or to fear. However, and fear is a wide, big envelope to hold lots of things that we do as humans. And love is a huge, wide envelope, but we always come back to choice. We do the piece that I believe around our free will is that we do have the choice to love or we have the choice to fear. And if we can step back when a fear response happens or fear reaction happens to a situation, to something you've heard, whatever, then we can make that second choice and we can always re-choose.
If we take responsibility for our lives, our actions, and our reactions, which is something that every spiritual teacher teaches and every path teaches, that you are responsible for your actions, your reactions. And we want to get into that root cause, even things that are being reflected outside of ourselves.
I have a number of things that I do when those things are, when you feel like you're holding that fear, that animosity. I mean, I will send love out from myself to many, many situations in the world. And one of the exercises that I've done recently when I've had different fears happening in my system is I've simply gone to the words, I am love, love I am. You are love, love you are. And we are love, love we are. And as I do that, I wrap the infinity symbol around the different pieces of that fear, of that animosity, of if it's another person, if it's my inner child or more than one inner child that are interfacing, I wrap that all because that's essentially bringing us all into that unified field. The other thing that I do and have done when I felt stuck is I have been blessed with allowing the language of light to come in. And that has done a certain amount of healing for me. That has opened huge amounts of space because it has been a vehicle to carry higher levels of love than what I personally as a human could carry. That has brought forth more divine love into the world.
Okay, Anne, so for anyone who's not ever heard of the language of light, can you explain what that is?
So language of light is words, noise, tones that come out of someone's mouth that are being channeled from above, as many of us will refer to it as. And basically, they're a wonderful method because they bypass the brain. It isn't, there is no conscious message being transmitted by the vehicle that is transmitting the language of light. So it is simply a penetration of love moving out into the world. And the person hosting that and the person receiving it doesn't have any influence on it, essentially.
How do you know that this transmission is coming from a higher consciousness than what you are?
It just fills me with so much joy and love and peace when it happens, that I know it's coming from a higher consciousness, and that consciousness is me, but it's a higher consciousness of who I am and who we all are. We all are the same. We all are the one like.
And have you used the language of light to actually shift things in your life?
Hugely, yes. A lot of my inner child things were very stuck, and there was almost a sense of terror within myself at times. And that's when the language of light started. And that's what shifted it and helped me to move further and further along my path of loving myself.
And I guess you could describe it really just as frequency that moves energy, right?
Absolutely. And that is exactly what it is. It's just frequency coming in, moving energy in the world, which is what we all are. We all are frequency moving in the world.
Are you open to channeling a little language of light for us today?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Is there anything that we need to do as we sit and listen to you?
If you start with the intention of receiving and being open, that is plenty, because the frequencies will do and the energies will do what they are meant to do.
All right, perfect. Perfect, and thank you.
Askimiakala karunukushkitikara karburniala korukuya kashkinilia uruya shpitiana framaruya almuluya kashmilikala uruya shmiata pitata tutanaticha hori perdana minuya shkita and just have a deep breath. Alino maranina kala kosh, espinia mahormilinia, monimia nananunia, nishnukulia, ariemoya, nishnifumiliana, manoriminustia. And have a deep breath. Istimara goya priada, oh yeah.
Very interesting. It's very, very interesting. I could feel some energy moving, especially at the back of my head at the occipital.
And it simply is love and frequency and energy passing into the world through me. I mean, the message for me is that it's love, and just to receive that. And love is a healing energy. And
how long have you been channeling light language?
About 8 years. It started when I was on an energy medicine course, and we were doing some work with hypnosis and deep energy healing, and some whistling, and birds came in and things like that through, and then words began. And when some super stuck energy was present, then this started coming through.
Well, thank you so much for that transmission. Are you actually like connecting with spiritual beings that help? Or is this just like information from the universe?
It's really just information. It's just the intellect of the universe transmitting through. And the intellect of the universe is love. It's the basis. What's important is that the love moves and the love comes in, and it is received for those that are ready to receive it.
Very good, very good. So, Anne, it's almost time to wrap up. Do you have any final words that you would like to share?
My message is essentially that by being the love we are contributing to the expansion and evolution of humanity. When we acknowledge that we are love as part of the fabric of the universe, as part of nature, then we can allow love to flow into us and radiate out of us to do its work in the world. I think my biggest message is to love yourself and to remember to react with love instead of fear as often as possible, even if it's only for yourself. Start there and begin to bring in more and more love into yourself.
Please share your book and your website with us.
My book is Essences of Truth, Inspirations for Loving Life. My website is essencesoftruth.com.
And thank you for being my guest this week. And thank you for listening to this episode of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please check out some of our other topics. Make sure you subscribe. Come and visit me at thoughtchange.com. I have a beautiful program called Alchemy from the Inside Out if you want to bring energy medicine into your world. That's it for this week. Bye for now.